Ever wondered why that slice of chocolate cake seems irresistible, or why scrolling through social media feels so satisfying? Welcome to the fascinating world of dopamine, a key player in our brain's complex machinery. Dopamine, a type of neurotransmitter, is a chemical messenger that transmits signals in the brain and other vital areas. It's a bit like the postman of your neural network, delivering important messages from one part of your brain to another. Now, the fun part about dopamine is its role in pleasure and reward. Imagine you're biting into your favorite food, let's say a juicy cheeseburger. As you savor the first bite, your brain releases dopamine, creating a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction. It's dopamine's way of saying, "Great job, this is good stuff." But dopamine isn't just about food and pleasure. It's also deeply involved in motivation and reward-based learning. It's like your personal cheerleader, pushing you to achieve your goals and rewarding you when you do. Whether it's finishing a challenging workout, acing a difficult test, or nailing that presentation at work, dopamine is there, cheering you on and making you feel accomplished. And it's not just about individual achievements. Dopamine also plays a crucial role in our social interactions. Ever noticed how good it feels to get a bunch of likes on your latest Instagram post, or when you're laughing with friends? That's dopamine doing its magic, reinforcing social bonding and making us feel part of a community. So far, it sounds like dopamine is the life of the party, right? It's associated with all the good things in life: pleasure, reward, motivation, social interaction. It's like that popular kid in school, always at the center of the action. So dopamine is our brain's feel-good chemical, rewarding us for behaviors that ensure our survival. But is it all good? Well, as it turns out, there's more to the story. Dopamine has a darker side, one that can lead to addiction and other problems. But that's a topic for another scene. So stay tuned, and let's delve deeper into the fascinating world of dopamine. Scene script. Dopamine doesn't work like an on-off switch. It's more like a sophisticated orchestra conductor. Let's imagine the brain as a grand concert hall. The neurons are the musicians, and dopamine, our maestro, conducts this magnificent symphony. Every time the maestro, or dopamine, waves its baton, the musicians or neurons play their notes. This act of playing notes is akin to the process of dopamine release. Now, these notes do not float aimlessly in the concert hall. Instead, they connect with specific audience members, or receptors. This is the concept of dopamine reception. When a dopamine molecule connects with a receptor, it triggers the neuron to send a signal. This signal can be anything from a twitch of your finger to a feeling of pleasure or motivation. But what happens after the note has been played? It doesn't linger indefinitely in the air. A well-trained crew or transporters swiftly clears the notes away so the next one can be played. This is dopamine reuptake, where the dopamine molecule is taken back up into the neuron that released it, ready for the next round. Dopamine doesn't just conduct in one part of the brain. It has different pathways, each responsible for a different function. One pathway might be the string section, controlling our movements. Another could be the brass section, influencing our mood. Yet another, the percussion, may be linked to feelings of reward and addiction. But like any maestro, dopamine must strike a delicate balance. Too much dopamine can lead to overstimulation, like a chaotic orchestra playing too loudly. This is often seen in cases of addiction. On the other hand, too little dopamine can result in understimulation, akin to an orchestra playing too softly, leading to conditions like depression or Parkinson's disease. So, as you can see, dopamine is not just about pleasure. It's a key player in our brain's complex symphony. Now let us delve into the darker aspect of dopamine. Ever wondered why it's so hard to quit certain habits? You see, dopamine isn't just about feeling good. It's also about wanting, desiring, searching, the pursuit of happiness, if you will. And sometimes that pursuit can lead us down some rather unsavory paths. Imagine a scenario where you're repeatedly exposed to certain stimuli. This could be anything from recreational drugs to gambling, even the seemingly harmless act of scrolling through your social media feeds. Each time you engage in these activities, your brain gets a hit of dopamine. It's like a little reward, a pat on the back for indulging in something enjoyable. But here's the catch. Over time, your brain adapts to these regular dopamine hits. it starts to crave more and more of the chemical to achieve the same level of satisfaction. It's as if your brain has developed a taste for dopamine, and it's constantly demanding a more extravagant menu. This is how addiction begins. It's a vicious cycle, really. The more dopamine you feed your brain, the more it wants. And the more it wants, the more you feel compelled to indulge in the activities that give it that dopamine fix. It's like a runaway train on the tracks of pleasure, heading towards a cliff of destruction. And it's not just about illicit substances or gambling. Even our daily routines can become sources of addiction. Ever noticed how you feel an irresistible urge to check your phone every few minutes? That's your brain craving its dopamine fix from the likes of likes, shares, and retweets. So, what's the solution? How do we break free from this cycle of dopamine-driven addiction? Well, some experts suggest a concept called dopamine fasting. Now, before you start panicking, this doesn't mean completely cutting off dopamine from your life. That would be like trying to survive without food or water. Instead, dopamine fasting is about taking a break from the activities that give you a dopamine rush. It's about resetting your brain, allowing it to recalibrate its dopamine receptors and regain its balance. It's like a detox for your brain. You step back from the whirlwind of constant stimulation and give your mind the space to breathe. But remember, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It requires discipline, commitment, and above all, understanding of your own habits and triggers. So, while dopamine helps us survive and thrive, too much of a good thing can lead to a harmful cycle of addiction. It's all about balance, really. A balance between seeking pleasure and maintaining control. A balance between feeding our desires and nurturing our well-being. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to navigate this intricate dance of chemicals in our brains, aren't we? So, how do we keep this sophisticated orchestra conductor in check? Well, there's no magic pill, but there are some natural ways to maintain a healthy balance of dopamine. Imagine it's like gardening. You can't force a plant to grow, but you can provide the right conditions to help it thrive. One of the key ingredients in this recipe for brain health is a balanced diet. That's right, you are what you eat, even down to your neurotransmitters. Consuming nutrient-rich foods like fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains can help foster optimal dopamine production. And if you're wondering about that bar of chocolate, yes, it can help too, in moderation of course. Next up is physical activity. Regular exercise is not just good for your waistline, but it's also a natural booster of dopamine levels. Whether it's a brisk walk in the park, a sweaty session at the gym, or a calming yoga routine, moving your body can help your brain keep the dopamine flowing. But it's not all about action. Rest is equally important. Getting a good night's sleep is essential for dopamine regulation. Think of it as a nightly reset for your brain, allowing it to replenish dopamine levels for the next day. And let's not forget mindfulness practices. Whether it's meditation, deep breathing, or simply taking a moment to appreciate a beautiful sunset, these activities can help reduce stress and support healthy dopamine levels. However, while these strategies can help, it's crucial to remember that if you're struggling with addiction, professional help is invaluable. Addiction is a complex issue that often requires a multifaceted approach, including therapy, medication, and support groups. In the end, maintaining a healthy dopamine balance is about understanding and respecting our brain's intricate chemistry. Remember, it's not about depriving ourselves of pleasure, but about making wise choices for long-term well-being. So, let's keep our internal orchestra conductor in check and enjoy the beautiful symphony of life. So, dopamine, friend or foe? Let's take a stroll down memory lane. We've explored dopamine, that nifty little neurotransmitter that's crucial for our motivation, reward, and pleasure systems. We've dived into how it works, sparking joy and satisfaction like a fireworks display in our brains. But, like a double-edged sword, we've also uncovered its dark side. Dopamine, the puppet master of addictions, can lead us down paths we'd rather not tread if left unchecked. We've also discussed the delicate art of maintaining a healthy balance. It's not about squashing dopamine's power, but harnessing it. It's like training a pet dragon. Daunting, yes, but imagine the possibilities when done right. Ultimately, dopamine is neither a villain nor a hero. It's a crucial part of our brain's complex machinery, and understanding it can help us live healthier, happier lives. Thanks for tuning in.